So welcome back to Lex Alexis. Today I'm going to do a championship ranking video since it was one of my polls of what kind of content you wanted to see. A lot of you wanted me to do championship ranking videos, so today I thought I'd rank the managers for this season. So we've got 29 managers to go through, so this is going to be a monster of a video. On the quiz that I released on Monday, Dark Knight and James, you submitted your quiz answers. Dark Knight, you got 6, James, you got 7. Your channel's going to be shout out James. It's on the eye icon up there right now. Everyone subscribe to James since he won the quiz. If you like what you see, you want to see more championship ranking videos and more of me, please make sure you do give this video a like. It is massively appreciated. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't done already, and please share this channel to as many people as you can. All of that would really make my day. And if you haven't done already, please follow me on Twitter. It's on the screen here and it's also in the description down below. But without any further ado, let's rank all championship managers this season from worst to best. 29th place, Jan Sievert. This one was a pretty unanimous decision in my part. He was sacked with only 3 games of the championship season being played, only picking up 1 point in those first 3 games. I feel like they were going to have a relegation hangover. Huddersfield only picking up 1 win when he took over from David Wagner against Wolverhampton Wanderers, so it was a bit strange for me that he was given time to try and fix things in the championship season, but it was just not going to continue, and if it continued, Huddersfield were only going to get relegated again. But 5.3 win percentage as well is really poor. I think it was a sensible decision that he was sacked quite quickly. 20th place, Nathan Jones, with a 15.3% win percentage, so it's significantly better than Jan Sievert, but it's still not great. He masterminded a 28-game unbeaten streak for Luton, but he was completely out of his depth, in my opinion, when he got into a really tight side like Stoke. But they've got a load of expectations as well. A really good squad, I think, with the likes of Sam Klukas, Sam Vokes, Nick Powell, a load of players, Tyrese Campbell in their squad that are probably too good to be in the position that they are at the moment. Stoke were rock bottom when Nathan Jones was sacked, and I think it was a sensible decision. Even though he masterminded 2 great wins against Fulham and Swansea, I think sacking him has been the best thing that has happened since Stoke. 27th place, Jose Gomez. A manager who had quite high expectations for leading up to this season, because when he took over for Paul Clement in the 2018-19 season, Reading only lost 2 home games since he took over, so Reading were proving to be a really tough side to beat away from home. However, Reading just did not start the season all that well. They did have a great victory against Cardiff, beating them by 3-0, with George Puskas being absolutely immense in that game. He only had an 18.1 win percentage this season, and I think with almost 2 wins in 11 games, I think it was inevitable that Jose Gomez was going to be sacked, and it found Reading in a relegation zone. And with Reading to be in a relegation zone with a squad like that, I think a change had to be needed. 26th place, Daniel Stendel. He had a 10% win rate percentage, so he didn't really do all that well in trying to kick Barnsley on for the being promoted into the championship. He masterminded 30 wins for Barnsley in League One, which is really difficult for sides to League One to get master over 30 wins. However, he was sacked with only 1 win in 11 games and not winning in its next 10 games since the opening day victory against Fulham. I think it was almost an impossible task, losing Liam Lindsay and Ethan Pinnock. It was almost like a recipe for disaster, and unfortunately didn't really predict that when I did my first set of predictions. I do feel sorry for Daniel Stendel. He's now at Hearts, where they're not in a great position either. I hope that he can find another club where he can increase his reputation again. 25th place, Graham Jones. It might be a little bit harsh to put him there since Luton have done, I say, pretty much on par of what people may have expected for them this season. This is his first club he's actually managed, and actually the second footballing role he's had where he's not followed Roberto Martinez. You would have thought that they were close friends, but Graham Jones decided to leave ways on being the Belgium coach, and instead he was working with Darren Moore last year with West Brom, but he left when Darren Moore got sacked, and then Luton made the decision to replace Mick Harford with Graham Jones. A bit of a strange appointment for me, since he's not really been having a role as a manager ever. It was his first ever role as a manager, so it was always going to be a risk appointing him in the first place. At times, Luton have looked okay. They've looked like their old characteristic League One selves, but defensively they've been a shambles. They've conceded the most goals in the league. His transfer activity as well has not been great. For instance, he signed Simon Sluga, who's made so many errors leading to goals. Now left Luton Town by mutual consent, and the only manager so far that's actually left the club during the coronavirus pandemic. Luton have not got a manager at the moment, but they need to get one as soon as they can, because they do have a fighting chance to survive. He managed to get 10 wins for Luton Town, Graham Jones, but with only a win percentage of 27%, it's not great. So I think it was a correct decision, maybe a decision that was taken a little bit too late. 24th place, Jonathan Woodgate. It was always going to be very difficult for Jonathan Woodgate, especially that this was his first senior management role, and also trying to adapt a new attacking philosophy where Middlesbrough have been playing under Pulis ball for 2 years. It was always going to be tough, but I think Middlesbrough have fallen way lower than most people were to expect with Middlesbrough. They are currently 19th and really narrowly just above the relegation zone on a matter of points. And with only having a win rate percentage of 22.5% is not great at all. Middlesbrough have actually already lost 2 more games than Pulis did all of last season. Of course, fans weren't happy with that form and he left the club. So the fact that Woodgate's lost 2 games more and still around could be a little bit questionable. I think the owners and maybe the fans are probably a little bit bound to what Jonathan Woodgate's playing style is, but Middlesbrough fans, would you give Jonathan Woodgate to the end of the season? Would you give him another chance of another season to try and improve a few things? Because for me, I don't really see Middlesbrough progressing. In fact, I see them regressing. With only 9 wins this season, it's not great. 23rd place, Neil Warnock. Obviously, this is for this year, 2019-2020. If it was to be 2 years ago, 2017-18, Neil Warnock would probably be near the top. He'd probably be the top 2 actually, because he was tremendous with Cardiff in that season. And if anything, I think he was quite an underrated manager in the Premier League as well with Cardiff as well. They had a fighting chance of staying alive in the Premier League, and I think because of that, they had huge expectations getting relegated back down into the Championship. Neil Warnock had a slow start, losing to Wigan on the opening day. Then they went on an encouraging run of form, not losing in 7 games. However, in those 7 games, they only picked up 2 wins. Neil Warnock kept drawing games and was struggling to try and get wins, which is ultimately, I think, what cost him the job. And he eventually left the club when Cardiff lost the 7-side derby at home to Bristol City following that Josh Brownhill stunner. 22nd place, Grant McCann. A 29.7 win rate percentage. Not too bad, but Grant McCann recently has been on a decline for Hull City. Since the January transfer window, losing Kamil Grzycki and Jared Bowen, they had to change their philosophy, and because the squad is so thin anyway, it's going to be filled with very inexperienced players that may not be in the level of quality that Grant McCann wants in this Hull City side. It's his first job as a Championship manager. He's previously worked in League One clubs such as Doncaster. I think he's been a little bit out of his depth. I think with the likes of Bowen and Grzycki, it was almost kind of papering over cracks a little bit, because defensively I felt they've been quite wide open, but they could always rely on Kamil Grzycki or Jared Bowen to catch them on the counter attack and to be very clinical going forward, and it has saved Hull a few games, but now they don't have that. Hull are very, very exposed, failing to win in 11 matches, which is absolutely insane. Currently 21st in the table, I have to say it's not great, so that's why Grant McCann is this low in the list. 21st place, Gary Monk. Now the reason being that he is that low, because I think with the squad he has, Sheffield Wednesday should not be this low, definitely. It's been a turbulent season for Sheffield Wednesday following controversy about the owner maybe breaching the sale of Hillsborough, and that could result in points deduction. We still don't even know what's going to happen with that. If football continues at all, maybe it might happen next season. We don't even know if they're going to get a points deduction. So this uncertainty has probably been plaguing Sheffield Wednesday a little bit. Gary Monk had such a good start and he briefly let Sheffield Wednesday into the top 6 race. However, with only 2 wins in 14 matches, it has seen Sheffield Wednesday drop all the way down to 15th. And if they do get this points deduction, it puts Sheffield Wednesday in a very precarious position in the table. His win rate percentage is 34.3, actually his second worst in his career. Actually, the only time he got a worse win percentage was his previous club, Birmingham. So you could probably see that maybe Gary Monk's losing his touch as a Championship manager a little bit, which is a little bit of a shame. Had promise, but for me, I think he has severely underperformed in the long run with this team, especially with the quality that it has. 20th place, Gerard Struber. For me, he's had a bit of an effect coming in. He's had 7 wins since he took over, managing to get a win rate of 26.9%, which is a significantly better win percentage for a Barnsley boss than Daniel Stendel had at the first 11 games of the season. And there is a bit more resilience, a bit more fight in this Barnsley team. However, defensively still there are some fragilities, and he has brought a few players in from AC Wolfsberger in Austria to try and make sure that the team's more familiar with his playing style, which has worked a couple of times, but for me, they've not won enough games. They can grind out a few draws here and there, but they need more wins. If they had more wins, Gerard Struber would be higher at the table. But the fact he's given Barnsley a fighting chance for escaping their predicament they were in under Daniel Stindl, that's why he's this high up the table. So for me, Gerard Struber, 20th place in the managers list. 19th place, Danny Cowley. Definitely brought a very positive effect to Huddersfield Town. I don't think they're the finished article yet, but I think with a few transfers, Huddersfield could be a serious side in the Championship again. Look at the signings he brought in January. Emil Smith-Rowe on loan, Harry Toffolo. Both of these players together have given 5 goal contributions. I think Danny Kelly definitely knows how to take this side going forward. They've got a fantastic talent as well in Colin Grant, which I think has helped their league position, scoring 16 goals this season. Lewis O'Brien, I think, also deserves a shout out as well from his recent performances as well before football stopped. The effect is very, very significant, which is why Danny Kelly is this high up the table. 18th place, Paul Cook. Paul Cook is working with one of the weaker squads in the league, one of the tightest budgets in the league. Still, Wigan do not find themselves in the relegation zone. It really reminds me of Burnley in the Premier League, actually, and I think they're both based in Lancashire as well, which is also funny. Wigan, for me, are a team with grit. They are so determined to get the best result for them, whether it's a hard-fought draw or to get 1 goal and just to sit everyone back to get the result that they want. They really frustrate teams. And previously, in the first half of the season, Wigan were all over the place defensively. Their goal scoring, they just could not get enough goal scorers. Kiefer Moore wasn't scoring, Jamal Lowe wasn't firing, and they kept dropping points from winning positions as well. If they won all those points from winning positions, they'd be 3rd place in the table right now, which is absolutely crazy. But right now, Wigan have managed to get a bit of resilience. They can now hold on to Leeds better. They've had better results, getting away wins against Leeds and West Brom. Remember last year, but they only had 1 away win. So Wigan, for me, have definitely improved despite their position being a little bit low as well and only being a couple of points above the relegation zone. But for me, one of the worst squads in the league, but definitely not performing like one of the worst squads in the league. Paul Cook definitely needs that recognition. I think Wigan could be a serious side if they stick with him. So that's why he's 18th place. 17th place, Lee Bowyer. With a 27% win percentage, which is actually the same as Paul Cook as well. I had to rate him slightly higher than Paul Cook because he has even more difficult circumstances than Paul Cook has had. There was even uncertainty of his manager's position as well at the start of the season, following disagreements with the owner. With that going on, the amount of professionalism that Lee Bowyer had was absolutely outstanding. And he managed to really prove that in his first 6 games. Charlton had a terrific start, winning 4 of their first 6 games, going unbeaten in that time as well. They were briefly in the top 2 places in the table. However, having injuries, especially to Lyle Taylor, have really dropped Charlton like a stone, and they find themselves in the final relegation place, which is disappointing. If they didn't have that drop, Lee Bowyer would be much, much higher. 16th place, Michael O'Neill. The turnaround of Stoke City is absolutely insane. Stoke City were last place, rock bottom on the Championship when Michael O'Neill came in, and Stoke now have an identity. They can actually play with a bit of resilience now as well. They're not defensively all over the place anymore. The transformation is just insane. The attacker players like Sam Clucas, Lick Powell, Tyrese Campbell, they're all thriving after this system as well, and they're defensively shored up now. Likewise with Huddersfield, I don't think they're quite the finished article, but I think they definitely have a stronger squad than Huddersfield. I know they're a little bit lower down, but that's, I think, because Michael O'Neill has had less time than Danny Cowley has to implement his ideas. He's done it in a shorter time, and for me, Stoke have improved so much more, with a 43.48 win percentage as well, which I think is one of the highest since Michael O'Neill's come in as well. 15th place, Pep Clotet. If someone had a so-so season or a mediocre season, that for me would be Pep Clotet. I really didn't expect him to get the manager's role, especially how poor he was with Oxford United in League One. Following from what I heard, it sounded like Pep Clotet was a bit of a yes man, which is why I think Birmingham hired him as the permanent manager. But I have to say, he has shushed the critics a little bit. He has done alright. He's not done brilliantly, but he's done okay. He's performed around the level of Gary Monk for me. His win rate percentage is actually lower than what he managed to achieve in Oxford United, which is a little bit scary, 32.4%. It's a weird season to sum up for Birmingham City, but with the club only losing once in their last 11 games, with the introduction of Scott Hogan coming in, getting a player of the month as soon as he got in the January transfer window, maybe Clotet can steer the club into a more positive finish if football resumes. 14th place, Mark Bowen. Another manager that I didn't expect to come in and manage the club, and he's another example of a Graham Jones following another manager in his footsteps in the coaching role. This time he followed Mark Hughes around. He followed him with Wales, Southampton, Queen's Park Rangers. Eventually he parted ways, where he was Reading's technical consultant. Eventually he was their sporting director, and then he becomes their manager. It's been a crazy few months for Mark Bowen, but I have to say he has shushed the critics, and he has managed to back up for what he knows. With a 38.71 win rate percentage as well, which is quite good. Reading have looked really good in January, but we've got to be careful. Jose Gomez also did very, very well for Reading after January as well. Is this going to be a repeat of Jose Gomez, or do you think Mark Bowen's a bit different? Reading fans, let me know what you think. Would you give Mark Bowen another season? For me, with the performances, I'd actually give him another season. I know maybe we could fall into the trap and maybe it might be a repeat of Jose Gomez and Reading have a poor start of this season, but I don't know, performances look really, really different. They've got to keep as many players as they can. That involves Ejaria and Puskas and John Swift. They've got to keep all of them in the club because they are the catalysts of Reading performing very, very well. 13th place, Neil Harris. A manager who's probably having his strangest season not being involved in Millwall. He's played with Millwall for many, many games and he's even managed Millwall. This is his first job as a manager not being involved with Millwall. He's now the manager of Cardiff. I think the problem with Neil Harris was he had a really poor season with Millwall last time. It didn't help with injuries and their long FA Cup run as well. And they also started slow in this season as well, only winning twice with Millwall before he got sacked. But I think with an overall win rate percentage of 41.6%, I think Neil Harris will leave Millwall as a legend. And for me, he's really drastically improved Cardiff. When Neil Warnock was sacked, they were 14th place, which is why I put Neil Warnock quite low down, because Cardiff should be nowhere near 14th place. But he's got a 36% win rate percentage, which I think is pretty good. And I think with his playing style, it's actually a perfect fit for Cardiff. So I actually think it's a good decision by the board appointing him as manager. 12 draws, 9 wins, but only 4 defeats since he's taken over Cardiff. Cardiff are a very difficult side to beat, which is what I expected them when they were relegated down into the Championship, because they were an exact team like that when they were in the Premier League as well. 12th place, Steve Cooper. Now, from the list from there on was so difficult to rank. I really struggled to rank the following 12 managers, but in the bottom of the pile, I've got Steve Cooper. Believe it or not, his win rate is 36.6%, only narrowly more than Neil Harris. So the margins are not that big between the two managers actually. Cooper looked to be the manager of the season when he collected the first manager of the month award, and Swansea won 5 of their first 6 games of the season. They were doing tremendously well. However, they just completely deteriorated, only managing to go 4 matches without defeat once since the start of the season, which is absolutely surprising. It goes to show that they've been really inconsistent now. I have to give him credit because they've lost so much talent. They've lost their previous manager, they've lost Jordan Ive, they've lost Daniel James, who both look promising individuals in the Premier League. But Andre Ayew and Bertrand Selina have been a standout performers for me. 11th place, Mark Warburton. A manager who I deeply respect in the Championship and I think is a little bit underrated. He actually has a lower win rate percentage than his previous clubs in Forest and Brentford, with only 37.8% with Queen's Park Rangers. But I have to say, Queen's Park Rangers as a side are a much better side to watch compared to what they had to endure with most of the season with Steve McLaren. Warburton has actually become the first Queen's Park Rangers manager to win their opening game of the season since Neil Warnock did all the way back in 2010, which is an unbelievable stat, by the way. Queen's Park Rangers have already won as many games as last season as well, with encouraging form, being undefeated in 6 games as well. I had to put him above Cooper, but very barely. And I have to say, he's a very underrated manager. 10th place, Tony Mowbray. A manager who I think has kind of rejuvenated his career a little bit. He's moved on from his very torrid time with Coventry City, where he really struggled there. He's actually had his highest win rate percentage with Blackburn since managing Celtic, with a 43.5 win rate percentage with the club overall. That includes League One, by the way. This season, it is 37.8%, which is pretty good actually. And they've actually lost less games than Preston, who are a side in the top 6. For me, Blackburn don't play the prettiest of football, but they have an identity, and Mowbray as a manager has got them to punch above their weight in my opinion. And they have recovered very well since their relegation to League One a couple of seasons ago. A very underrated manager as well. 9th place, Philip Cocu. This was a really difficult one to rate for me because I think Philip Cocu came into English football with a really big reputation in the Eredivisie and of course as a player as well. However, I think this season has been a complete trek for him. There's been controversy of possibility of financial fair play breaching with the owner, but there've also been off the field issues with their captain Richard Keogh, with a potentially career-ending injury for me, and also with Mason Bennett and Tom Lawrence with their drink driving scandal as well. He steadied the ship very well, and with the January signing of Wayne Rooney, Derby have gone on to do very, very well, have only lost 3 times in their last 14 games, which is absolutely staggering. If he can get Derby to the playoffs, I would say he'd be in contention to finish a lot higher in this list for me. In 8th place, Lee Johnson. Once again, another tough manager to grade because for me, I think he's done about par for what he's done in previous couple of seasons or so. However, he has had it tough with injuries to deal with, especially with Benik Afobe, Josh De Silva, and even Daniel Bentley at one stage. He has coped with it really well. With a win rate of 40.5%, which is pretty good. For me, Johnson has done really, really well. But it won't be worth anything if Bristol City don't get in the top 6. For me, Bristol City need to be in the top 6 into the playoffs. And I think of going on a run of 5 games without a win in the league, I think football has stopped at completely the right time for Bristol City. It's going to be interesting if football does come back of how Bristol City cope with their poor run of form. 7th place, Gary Rowett. He is back at his best for me, and with Millwall, he's got them seriously competing for the playoffs. Compared to their sticky position last season and overturning 7 games without a win, Rowett has unlocked the potential that this team had. Matt Smith, Tom Bradshaw, Jed Wallace are the 3 players in that formula. His win rate percentage is 42.3, which is actually 11% more for what he achieved as Stoke City manager, which is quite an amazing comeback story for him. If he can get Millwall to the playoffs, I think he can even be in contention with manager of the season, especially as Millwall had a very sticky start to the season. 6th place, Alex Neil. One of the youngest managers and one of the few managers to actually have a crack at the Premier League. Obviously, he had 1 season in the Premier League with Norwich City, which unfortunately he did get relegated. But I think Preston getting him has been a huge coup. Form has been a little bit more questionable recently, which is why Alex Neil is not anywhere higher. But he's earned 6th place because Preston last season were a complete mess, but he's completely pulled the reverse card on that, and he's completely got Preston to be a fighting side to get them into the top 6. They are showing similar traits in their recent form to what they were last season, but I think Alex Neil is a bright enough manager to turn that around. If Preston get in the playoffs, there'll be an unbelievable season with Alex Neil. 5th place, Scott Parker. Very tough to rank, especially that this is his first managerial position that he's taking on, and for how good he was with Fulham when he had his really brief chance in the Premier League. He's had a win rate percentage of 48.6%, which is pretty good. The reason why he's not any higher though, because in my opinion, with the squad he's got, I think they should be where Leeds are personally. 3rd place, I think for me, even though it's a really high place up the table, I think that squad have underperformed a little bit. There have been times where Fulham have been absolutely amazing. I think back to their 4-0 victory against Millwall where they completely blew them away. But for me, Fulham should have been doing that consistently. They've been inconsistent, which is why I put Scott Parker this low down. But I think players like Mitrovic, the top goal scorer of the league so far, Tom Carey, Marek Rodak, all deserve shout-outs for how good Fulham have been. I think if Fulham get promoted, I think Parker will definitely be ranked higher, but the element of doubt of not being promoted is why I put him down as low as 5th. 4th place, Sabri Namuchi. One of the new faces in the Championship and a fantastic character actually, which I will miss if he does get promoted into the Premier League because I think the Championship needs a character like Namuchi. Forest do have a specific tactic. They don't play a lot of the ball, but they are a very dangerous side going forward. They do play with an identity as well, and if you stick with our identity and trust it, you get rewarded for it, and they've been rewarded currently in the playoffs. He has really big ambitions for this club and has managed to win 2 Manager of the Month awards. The only manager that has actually won multiple Manager of the Month awards this season so far. If he can get Lewis Grabman firing, adding to his 17 goals he's already had this season, I think Forest will be favourites to go out following their fantastic record against the top 6, and you have to give Lamucci credit. 3rd place, Thomas Frank. His 2nd senior management role, but wow, he's probably had the biggest surprise of this season, if I'm going to be honest. When he took over Dean Smith last season, Brentford finished a very disappointing 12th place, and I didn't expect Thomas Frank to really improve Brentford, but I have to say he has really improved them, and with the sale of Neil Maupay, I was really worried, but I have to say Thomas Frank has actually got them playing a little bit better, I might argue. But it's not just BMW firing so many goals, they've got the 2nd best defence in the whole league too. So Brentford do look like a completed team. If they were a bit more consistent, I think they'd be exactly where Leeds are. I think they definitely play like a promotion winning side. They had a really slow start to the season. I think without that, they would have been in Leeds' position though. But with only 2 defeats in 10 and collecting 7 points out of 9 in January, that is how Thomas Frank managed to get his Manager of the Month award. If Brentford do get promoted to the Premier League and they stick with Thomas Frank, I'll be very excited to see what he can do, because for me, Brentford are probably in contention of being one of the most entertaining sides in the whole Championship. Second place, Slaven Bilic. Honestly, second and first place could have been interchangeable between Slaven Bilic and Marcelo Bielsa, because nothing really separates them. But with second, I'm going with Slaven Bilic. The only difference is that Bielsa edges Bilic with win percentage rate, but also Leeds have got a tougher and tighter defence system. If Bilic had a little bit of more better defence with West Brom, I think I would have edged him. But Slaven Bilic is second. Honestly, he's done absolutely amazing. And I think Bilic, he's had to back this up as well. I think a load of people were expecting West Brom to be in the top 2 following how good he was as West Ham manager in his first few seasons with that club. And I think with his ambitions, his ability, and with his mentality as well, which has been more impressive with West Brom as well, that is why West Brom are up there. And for me, he gets second place. But first place, of course, is Marcelo Bielsa with a 54% win rate percentage, which is absolutely brilliant if you compare to some of the other win rate percentages I did with the other managers in this video. But one of the most mind-boggling stats that I just found, Leeds United have gone on 450 minutes without conceding a goal, which is absolutely insane. In fact, if you cut this season's short and you actually include all the days of this whole pandemic, that number should still be increasing. Leeds United have not conceded a goal in 5 games, which is absolutely mad, keeping a clean sheet in both of them, and that mad run of form has put Leeds in a fantastic position where previously they were stuttering a little bit, and I thought Bielsa might have been having his burnout. But the fact that Bielsa proved us wrong and has actually said he has got what it takes to get Leeds up, with that extra bit of fight and determination to prove people wrong, for me, Bielsa is the best manager of the Championship in the 2019-2020 season. Obviously, this is just my opinion. What I'm more interested in is, what is your opinion? Who do you think was the best manager and the worst manager in the 2019-2020 Championship season? Let me know in the comments down below. And with your Championship club, where would you rank your manager from first place to 29th place? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm always very interested to know. But I think that wraps it up for today's video. If you guys like what you see, want to see more Championship content, please make sure you do give this video a like. It's tremendously appreciated. Please subscribe if you haven't done. If you're new around here, all of that would really make my day. And please share the channel to as many people as you can. All of that would really make my day. And as I said previously, if you want to look into my life a little bit, you can always follow me on Twitter. It's there, and it's also in the description down below. Hope you guys are fit and healthy following the coronavirus pandemic. And even though it may be a little bit suspicious if football is ever going to be started at all in June, it will be at June the 1st the earliest. So we're going to have to wait and see if everything still goes to plan of what we're going through. But that wraps it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary if you saw the end of this video. And as always, take care.